it looks like polling indicates that Viktor Orban's going to lose tomorrow, though we don't know that for sure, of course. The election's not exactly fair. JD Vance went over there to campaign for Viktor Orban. In fact, Trump and his crew are so desperate for Viktor Orban to win that Trump directly bribed Hungary into voting for Orban today. That was today. My administration stands ready to use the full economic might of the United States to strengthen Hungary's economy, as we've done for our great allies in the past, if Viktor Orban and the Hungarian people ever need it. We are excited to invest in future prosperity that will be generated by Orban's continued leadership. Very subtle, Mr. President. Exact same thing that we did with Argentina. Just gave him $40 billion for nothing, because, you know, he's one of the few global allies that Trump has. This is an enemy action against the EU by an enemy. No, 100%. Yeah, Hungary legitimately should not be allowed in the European Union. They are an enemy of Europe. They are like if you have Hungary in, you might as well have Russia in. I don't know why that's allowed at all.
That 16-year political dynasty that he's held on to power consecutively. He's going for his fourth term here. And the real question is he going to be displaced by this sort of upstart campaign that began about a year and a half ago by Peter Magyar, who's really come out of really nowhere, was an insider in the party, and has staged this absolutely spectacular campaign over the last 18 months. And over the last few months, really taking...
The EU has no process for kicking out member states. Then they should fix it. Everyone is so addicted to following the rules. Just don't. Just kick them out. I don't care. Just introduce a motion to do it and then do it. I don't care how the rules work. If there's no motion to kick out a country, then introduce a motion to kick out a country. I don't care. Like, just do it. Just fucking do it.
Double-digit point lead on Viktor Orban. There are a ton of questions, though, going into Sunday. There's a lot of questions about the fairness of the election. I mean, just anecdotally, coming into Budapest, you come in from the airport, every single big billboard political poster is for Viktor Orban. Half of them have Viktor Orban looking very stately, sort of gazing out into the middle distance with a sort of optimistic message. But I'd say more than half of them have a photo of a sort of mugshot of Volodymyr Zelensky, Peter Magyar, saying basically danger. The only way to stop this is to basically vote for Viktor Orban, getting him back in office. We heard from Viktor Orban a little bit earlier today, again, sending more of this message. And this has really been the Orban sort of playbook here.
If we kick Hungary, then Eastern Europe's cut off, though. It's an issue. I like, that sucks, yeah, but Hungary just literally should. They're an enemy to EU interests. Like, Hungary is a vassal state of Russia, and Russia has actively sought to undermine the EU. They're like it's a real problem. They're a drain on resources. They're illiberal. They shouldn't be in the EU. There should be a very basic, like, ideological... It's crazy that they have ideological prereqs for entering the EU, but not, like, maintenance ones. You know, like the idea that you could have a country that fits the qualifications for the EU at one point, but then later it gets worse.
Basically trying to gas up fear, saying that, you know, Hungary is exposed to the European Union, to Ursula von der Leyen, to Ukraine, and that he's the only one that can defend it.
Israeli article: if Orban falls, Israel could use its lose its EU firewall. Yeah, obviously Orban is a big friend of Israel, big friend of Russia. The reason Trump and Republicans like him so much is because he set the model for what Trump and the Republicans tried to do in the United States. But as you can see, it didn't work over there, and it's not going to work over here. Like I've said, the fascists do not have a stable model for controlling society. They don't. They just don't. Even if they win, they can't hold for long. I don't think anyone has a stable model right now.
He may be running out of steam on that, largely because of an economic stagnation that's really extended for a couple of years, and a real inflation crisis that hit really severely over the last couple of years, has diminished but has left its scars.
Well, and what about the notion of the U.S. government at the highest levels being involved in this? When you have the Vice President of the United States essentially campaigning alongside of you, is that something that helps him in these final days, Oliver? Or could it actually have the reverse effect in Hungary?
Yeah, Kaylee, and not just campaigning a little bit. I mean, JD Vance was here for 3 days. He only left yesterday. He did a bunch of state, sort of state visit stuff, spoke next to Viktor Orban. That's what you expect when a vice president comes. He attended a rally. He put Donald Trump on speakerphone in front of the audience to try to get everybody gassed up. I think there's a real question of how much effect this has for two reasons. For one reason, JD Vance, most people in Hungary don't really know who this is. Maybe it excites the base that was already going to vote for Viktor Orban. But the other fact of the matter is that 12 months ago, Donald Trump was seen as a real icon, really a different sort of movement in terms of the political far right within Europe. What we've seen from Donald Trump over the last 6 months, particularly on the question of Greenland, particularly on the question of Iran, has zero support across Europe, even on the far right. So some real questions about that. Plus, Kaylee, does anybody like it when people come from another country and tell you how to vote?
Well, good point. And you say the question of Greenland. That, of course, is something we heard President Trump raising this week, at least on social media, in the aftermath of his meeting with the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, as there is a not so closeted conversation happening about whether or not Trump would still like to see the United States participating in the NATO alliance, of which, of course, Hungary is a member. How does that kind of rhetoric also impact the Hungarian electorate when it's thinking about its own security? To your point, it seems like security is central in the election messaging here.
Absolutely. Well, Hungary is very interesting in this way. As you say, it is a member of NATO. It was obviously occupied.
I don't find it interesting at all, actually.
By the Soviets for a very long time. And in fact, Viktor Orban really cut his teeth in being one of the sort of brave and early politicians to basically say that the Russians need to get out and that in Hungary...
Man, I always forget that Hungary is a part of NATO. I always forget that, man. It always slips my mind, I guess, because like Hungary, I just think of Hungary as a part of Russia. So I keep forgetting that they're technically... So is Turkey. Yeah, but at least Turkey historically was on our side of the Cold War. It's just, I keep forgetting that, you know?
Should be an independent nation after the
I know
fall
Poland
of
was on their side too, but I just don't think of, you're thinking of Belarus? I mean, Belarus is only one step further towards Russia than Hungary. Seriously, like Hungary is not that far from Belarus.
Communism. He's obviously reversed that tack, not saying that it should be a communist nation or part of Russia, but has been on the side of Vladimir Putin. I mean, we had a spectacular story out a little bit earlier this week where we heard from Vladimir Putin this phone conversation between Orban and Putin back in October, in which Viktor Orban was saying very explicitly, listen, I'm here to basically do your bidding. I'm at your service to help you out. And that's exactly what he's done across the European Union. So it's a super significant election here for the Hungarians. It's being closely watched in Brussels. Viktor Orban is the only person that is currently blocking that 90 billion euro loan to the Ukrainians. As far as NATO is concerned, I mean, I think everybody in Europe is just happy when Trump is not talking about NATO. That obviously went away. You'd think that maybe when he was distracted with the war in Iran, we wouldn't hear from Greenland, but we've heard from Greenland again and again throughout the week. And again, everybody in NATO, I think this is the single biggest issue for the Europeans, more than the trade war, is whether or not the United States will be committed to NATO.
Neat.
Hungarians will go to the polls this Sunday in one of the most closely watched elections this year. Longtime Prime Minister Viktor Orban, an ally of both President Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin, is facing the most serious challenge to his 16 years in office. As Lisa Desjardins tells us, the White House also has a lot riding on Hungary's vote.
In Hungary this week, a nation on a precipice. Between a leader linked to the East.
Democracy is dying in Europe because Brussels is directly interfering in that.
Is there any real chance the U.S. would leave NATO? Yeah, it could happen. I mean, it'd be pretty crazy, but it could happen, yeah.
National elections. They openly demand that Hungary should have a pro-Brussels and a pro-Ukrainian government. Well, it won't happen, my friends.
And a challenger promising a turn to the West.
The Hungarians still see that Hungary's peace and development are...
He's not that much better, but he is better. I don't know. The EU has been going on its own run towards authoritarianism.
Guaranteed by the membership of the European Union and NATO.
Incumbent Prime Minister Viktor Orban has led Hungary for 16 years, the longest of any serving European Union leader. Long touting nationalist conservative policies, promoting, in his own words, an illiberal state based on national values, from fiscal conservatism, pursuing state control in the economy, to crackdowns on immigration, and passing anti-LGBT...
Like many fascists, Orban used to LARP as like a populist, left-leaning person.
LGBTQ laws, banning pride events, and same-sex marriage. Orban has been accused by the European Union and human rights organizations of dismantling democratic institutions, from cracking down on free press and restricting content, to co-opting ownership of independent media. Pro-Orban oligarchs now own 500 media outlets, approximately...
Funny how Orban got so ugly as he aged poorly. Yeah, no kidding. He used to be pretty hot.
80% of the nation's media is controlled by Orban's Fidesz party.
Hungary's new constitution has angered opposition.
The hard right party also successfully passed a new constitution in 2011 that hands control over the judiciary to a political appointee in the parliamentary majority.
Sounds
Orban's
familiar. No, the Republicans have modeled their takeover after Orban. So yeah, like pretty much everything that's happened over there is going to happen over here, with the exception of restructuring the constitution, which you can do much easier in Hungary than you can over here. Doing it over here is damn near impossible.
Fidesz party. In the first year alone, 274 judges and prosecutors were forced into early retirement, according to a report by the European Commission.
The dictator is coming.
And despite the Commission decrying the legislation as illegal under EU law and large-scale domestic protests, Hungary has since passed more laws limiting the judiciary's power. Orban has also maintained an anti-Ukraine stance, having vetoed a $103 billion EU loan package after a key pipeline transporting oil from Russia to Hungary and Slovakia was bombed in Ukraine in January. Ukraine has blamed Russia for the attack, but Orban maintains it was Ukraine and Volodymyr Zelensky's government.
Yeah, what's the point of having countries' laws potentially be illegal under EU law, but not having a mechanism for removing people from the EU? That's crazy. I don't understand. Well, anyway, we'll see how people Pokemon go to the polls tomorrow. I expect that Orban will be ousted. It seems likely, more likely than not, but we'll see. I don't know. I like this one. That's good. They can block money. Yeah, but Hungarians are also poor. Angel of death. JD Vance, he went to Hungary to campaign for Viktor Orban. Do you think Magyar will actually make change? In the short term, yes. In the long term, no. Again, like liberal democracy, or liberal democracy, as we have come to experience it, is on a downward slope that isn't going to be fixed by any of these people. So, you know, it's just a matter of like, it's like all these countries are experiencing the same fundamental decline, but it'll slow the decline, I guess. Also, Hungary's voters are still right-wing. Yep. Probably not good. Do you think your argument applies to AfD winning in Germany being preferable? I don't really know enough about the mood of the people in Germany to say whether or not the disillusionment they'd feel from the alternative would be worse than the effects of the AfD. I do think that if the AfD won, they would do basically nothing, though. It'd be like Meloni's party in Italy. It's like the AfD is Nazis, but they're pro-Israel. Like, okay, yeah, they're going to be the same as everyone. They're going to be like the Reform Party. They're going to be like, it would be the same if Mélenchon, sorry, if the bitch... the blonde in France. What's her name? Come on, you know who I'm talking about. Le Pen. Like, Le Pen, AfD, Meloni, they're all the same people. They're all, like, fake demons. Ooh, we're fascist. Ooh, we're scary. We're going to ban migration. Well, the liberals are trying to do that, too. But it's mostly a matter of trying to prevent, like, total societal disillusionment. I don't know enough about how people feel in Germany to really make that statement, I think. Why is it so easy for people to hate each other? I genuinely don't understand. Most people are, I don't know, busted, I guess. Not snatched. The RN in France could destroy the EU from the inside. Yeah, I just think the EU is going to be destroyed anyway, I guess. I'm very, like, I guess, deterministic on the idea that neoliberalism has already sown the seeds for its own destruction, and it's basically just a waiting game. Though America is way ahead of the curve on this one. American exceptionalism. We're number one. We're number one. Will the steady rise in authoritarianism across Europe and the states reverse with voting? I'm not sure what you mean. Europe has been getting more authoritarian with time over the past 20 years, whether or not their governments are liberal or conservative, right? Like, Europe is pretty much aligned on, for one, support for Israel. For two, all migrants should be shot at until they sink into the Mediterranean. Number three, austerity politics. Number four, weird, creepy EU surveillance law bullshit that seems like it's helping with corporate overreach, but is actually just, you know, limiting your rights. I don't know. It's, again, it is much worse over here in America. Yeah, wealth accumulation in the hands of the wealthy, the wealth inequality. It is worse over here in America. We are seeing it happen faster. But it is worth noting that if America does experience a big, like, economic shortfall, a big collapse, a lot of the wealthy and their parasitic powers will move over to Europe. Like, the reason why America is currently the hotbed for those types is because we have the most money, and also we have the most favorable business environment. Our laws make it the easiest for them to grift and steal. But if things fall apart here, that might not be the case anymore. It might be easier for them to go over there. Like, Europe will financialize as well. It's an inevitable consequence of capitalist development. When might that happen? I don't know. Is that the point when real fascism becomes viable? Well, real fascism probably won't be viable until people have, like, a very, very, very low opinion of the value of a human life, including their own. So the Israelis value their own lives. They're too comfortable. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Is Vosh an Islamophobe? Not even a little bit. What did I say that makes you think I'm Islamophobic? Or were you just asking because I was talking about Europe and a lot of Europeans are Islamophobic? Dude, even the European left parties are Islamophobic, man. It's crazy. One little Syrian refugee crisis, they all lost their goddamn minds.